Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror thriller film named The Inheritance. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The story begins with a grand and luxurious manor of Abernathy, one of the world's top wealthy families. This is where Drew grew up. But on this day, a birthday invitation from within the family calls all direct relatives back home. For Drew's wife, Hannah, who was not invited, accompanying Drew home for this occasion brings a complex mix of emotions. Compared to Drew's prestigious background, Hannah comes from an ordinary family. Thankfully, her strong bond with her husband has earned her the approval of her in-laws. In Drew's eyes, she has long been a part of this big family. With Drew's comforting presence, Hannah feels her anxiety ease considerably. However, not everyone in the family shares this viewpoint. As the car slowly approaches the manor, they find that others have already arrived ahead of them. Drew's older brother, CJ, and sister Madeline, the pillars of the Abernathy family business and elites on the Forbes list. They manage technology investments and the hotel news industry respectively, reluctantly return to comply with their father's invitation, despite their busy schedules. As soon as they speak, they challenge Drew, pointing out that the invitation clearly states this is an internal gathering for direct family members, questioning how Hannah, an outsider, could be present. To defend his wife, Drew asserts that it was his decision to bring her. In contrast to the serious and rigid demeanor of the siblings, younger sister Cammie radiates warmth. She introduces Abernathy's family reunion to the audience via live stream and enthusiastically embraces Hannah, welcoming her arrival. Now, Cammie and Drew run the family charity to uphold the family's brand image. The butler's voice interrupts their conversations, but apart from them, the vast manor is empty. Only the butler remains, as all other staff and security have been given time off and won't return until tomorrow morning. The butler cannot explain the reasons for this either. Under his guidance, they quickly enter the manor, where he instructs them to meet in the hall in 30 minutes, leaving them to return to their rooms to rest. In the solitude, Hannah reflects on the siblings' earlier attitudes and feels a twinge of sadness. But to Drew, this is all a matter concerning his brother and sister. They are consumed by their endless work. When their mother passed away from cancer, Hannah was there by Drew's side. He never regrets giving up the path of wealth and family honors. Hannah is unparalleled in his heart. As they pack their bags, an elderly man stands in the living room, waiting for a long time. The man, named Charles, is the owner of the manor. When all the children gather before him, he unexpectedly spots Hannah among them, frowning slightly and turning to Drew. Displeased, he reproaches, reminding him that his letter emphasized this was a gathering for direct relatives only. Before Drew could explain, Hannah spoke up first. She mentioned that she had voluntarily come to celebrate Charles's birthday and had prepared a thoughtful gift for him. With the situation as it was, Charles could only express his gratitude. He then addressed his children, revealing that the reason for summoning them was that someone had placed a bounty on his head, promising to kill him by midnight. At this revelation, everyone was stunned. CJ was the first to ask what had happened. The others looked on as Charles, visibly shaken, confessed to having made mistakes in the past and that today was the day to pay for them. Madeline sensed something was amiss and asked why, if Charles knew someone wanted his life, he had sent all the servants away instead of keeping them to protect him. Upon hearing this, Charles looked at Hannah with a barely concealed admiration and explained that he trusted no one except his own flesh and blood to earn his confidence. If the children could ensure Charles survived the night, each of them would inherit a vast fortune. However, if he were to die before dawn, all his assets would be donated unconditionally to the local foundation. Everyone stood frozen in place. They could hardly accept their father's decision, but seeing Charles's resolute attitude, they reluctantly complied. The butler announced that the house was completely sealed off and no one would disturb them. Hearing this, Charles turned to Hannah and said it was a gathering for direct relatives only, and she could choose to leave or stay. Wanting to integrate into the family, Hannah chose to stay and support her family through this crisis. With this, Charles had nothing more to say. After the butler left, he walked alone to his study, locking the door behind him. As night fell, CJ gathered the children for a meeting to discuss the situation. He couldn't comprehend the purpose of the gathering, believing his father must be insane. However, Hannah felt that since Charles took this matter seriously, even if there was a 1% chance it was true, she was willing to believe it. Hannah encouraged everyone not to sit idly by. If they could find the assassin before the attempt, everyone could remain safe. Ultimately, opinions diverged, but they decided to search the house to ensure no outsiders could infiltrate. They began searching each room, but Hannah's eagerness led CJ to suspect she was after the inheritance, resulting in him challenging her verbally. Drew immediately stood up to confront CJ, and tensions rose between them, nearly leading to a fight. Kami stepped in to mediate, interrupting the search. The group left in discontent. Kami decided to relax with a drink. She changed into her swimwear, poured herself a glass of red wine, and opened her phone to show off her sexy swimsuit. Just then, she noticed a shadow in the corner behind her on the video. She felt a chill run down her spine all the way to her smelly butt. Gathering her courage, she turned her phone to the corner, but the shadow vanished. Shaking her head, she dismissed it as the effects of the alcohol and poured herself another drink. Sitting by the pool and scrolling through her phone, Kami remained oblivious to the figure approaching her quickly from behind. In an instant, she was yanked away, struggling wildly in the water, calling for help. The next moment, a loud thud echoed as Kami was thrown into the pool, floating on the surface with a horrific wound on her forehead, blood pouring out and instantly staining the water red. The sounds of his cries went unnoticed by the others. Meanwhile, CJ and Madeline were in the lounge playing pool, scheming to undermine their father and take over the family business. Unbeknownst to them, Drew and Hannah overheard their conversation. Drew didn't expose them but brought up Kami's disappearance. The four then began to search for her, and soon Kami's body was found in the pool. They were shocked and hurriedly dragged the body ashore, exchanging worried glances. When Charles heard the news, he rushed to the pool and saw his youngest daughter lying lifeless. He mumbled about it being a ghost seeking revenge. The others were confused, and upon inquiry they learned that their father had made a deal long ago that led to the death of an innocent person. Kami's death was a warning that if he didn't act, he would meet the same fate. Madeline suggested they urgently call for outside help and contact public relations to manage the situation. But upon hearing this, Charles became extremely agitated. He interrupted everyone, insisting they continue their duty to protect. He then announced that Kami's share of the inheritance would go to Hannah, acknowledging her position within the Abernathy family. This revelation left everyone in shock. To prevent further tragedies, they organized to actively search for the assassin. Kami's death raised many suspicions, and CJ pointed fingers at Hannah and Drew, suggesting their father's arrangements made them the primary beneficiaries. Drew, furious at CJ's baseless accusations, prepared to retaliate, but Hannah quickly intervened, reminding him that the urgent matter at hand was to deal with Kami's body. As the couple returned to the pool, Kami's body had mysteriously disappeared, leaving only a pool of blood on the ground. Hannah felt a wave of fear wash over her. At that moment, she was determined to escape this place as quickly as possible. Although there was the prospect of considerable wealth, one had to be alive to enjoy it. Drew felt reluctant, but Hannah's words awakened her to reality, and they began searching for an exit. Madeline went alone to Kami's room, overwhelmed by the immense pain of losing her younger sister. CJ found her, and for the first time, the siblings opened their hearts to each other. They were both unfortunate members of their family, having lived like puppets under their father's strict control, never daring to defy his arrangements. Their brother Drew was indulged by their father, who not only allowed him to marry the privileged Hannah, but also allocated to them what was originally meant for Kami. While comforting her, CJ shared his thoughts with Madeline. Gradually, Madeline's anger overtook her fear, and they agreed to first control Hannah and her husband. Hannah and Drew were unaware that they were being targeted. They entered the collection room, attempting to find an escape route. After passing through a series of cold statues, they arrived at the back door, only to find it locked. Hannah tried to squeeze through the small gap, but it was too tight, and after much effort, she couldn't escape. A chilling wind hit their faces as they struggled, unaware that the statues behind them were slowly moving. Suddenly, the lights went out. Realizing something was wrong, the couple rushed toward the door, but the objects in the room seemed to come alive, blocking their escape. Fortunately, they were agile and managed to dodge and flee the area. Looking back, they saw a terrifying monster staring intently at them. Just as they had escaped death, they heard a series of coded signals that only their father knew. Drew attempted to call out for Charles but received no response. Following the sound, he approached the vault door and hesitated for just a moment before stepping inside to investigate. However, the moment he entered, the heavy vault door slammed shut, rendering their chicken cries for help useless. Outside the vault, seeing CJ locked in, Madeline felt a sense of worry. However, if they didn't control Hannah and Drew, they might be the ones in danger. As they walked down the corridor, the coded signals sounded again, causing them to stop in terror and look back. A shadow slowly appeared at the corner, and now, apart from the two of them and their father, there were also Hannah and Drew locked away. Who was the sixth person? Madeline stumbled towards the corner, but when she turned around, the corridor was empty. Suddenly, she noticed footprints on the floor, freezing her in place. Her body felt as if it was being controlled, starting to float and cross awkwardly. In shock, she blinked, only to find herself falling to the ground. CJ quickly picked up a gun and shouted as he rushed to follow her. When Madeline opened her eyes, she found herself in Kami's room, bewildered by the footprints on the ground and Kami's portrait on the wall. As she approached to investigate, she discovered that the portrait was bleeding. Reaching out to touch it, the thick, sticky sensation sent chills down her spine to her butt. Looking up again, she found Kami's hands gripping hers tightly, the stench of decay filling her nostrils. In the next moment, Kami twisted her jaw and slowly opened her smelly mouth wide, revealing a gaping maw. Black sludge burst out instantly, pouring all over Madeline's sexy face. She struggled in agony on the ground. Suddenly, CJ appeared at the door, holding a shotgun. Kami watched him slowly stand up, blood oozing from the wound on his forehead, and walked towards him step by step. Then there was a loud bang of a gunshot. Kami was unharmed, revealing a scheming smile before vanishing into thin air, while Madeline stood behind him, gun drawn. CJ was taken aback. Madeline's pupils were dilated, her shirt soaked in diabetic blood, but he couldn't mourn. It seemed there was more movement outside the door. He quickly picked up the shotgun and walked outside, but after looking around, he found no one. Turning back to look inside the room, a chilling sight met his eyes. Madeline's body had disappeared. With the oxygen in the vault running out, Drew and Hannah embraced each other, preparing to face death calmly. Just then, the main door suddenly swung open. CJ appeared before them, panic-stricken, trembling as he conveyed the news of Madeline's death. As they left the vault, the lights began to flicker ominously, and the shadow of a demon lurked. To cover their escape, CJ walked alone into the darkness. The couple fled and accidentally entered a secret room. After exploring, they found an ancient summoning altar. It seems that someone had summoned the demon. Meanwhile, CJ searched the room, unaware that the demon had locked onto him as a target. With only one bullet left in the gun, it was his last hope. He scoured the room but found nothing. Suddenly, there was a noise by the window. CJ nervously raised his shotgun to aim, and upon closer inspection, he saw two pools of blood floating in the air. Trembling, he vaguely saw a pale figure standing in the corner. CJ quickly opened his eyes, trying to move his limbs but found himself paralyzed. Looking up the stairs, he saw Kami and Madeline silently watching him from above as Madeline slowly approached him. CJ's hair stood on end from fear, but his body wouldn't respond. Soon the cold-faced Madeline descended the stairs and gently picked him up. He let out a heart-wrenching chicken scream as his face visibly withered away, turning into a dry corpse, slowly dragged into the darkness. Hannah and Drew burst out of the secret room, the ceiling instantly shrouded in darkness. They desperately ran towards the study, the demon relentlessly pursuing them. Drew pounded on the door, calling for his father. At the critical moment, he fought off the encroaching darkness. Looking at the panicked couple, Charles inquired about the others' whereabouts. Upon learning that everyone else was dead as shit, his expression dimmed, but a moment later, he returned to his usual self. Seeing this, Drew questioned his father about what exactly he was summoning. Realizing the secret was out, Charles decided to tell the truth. It turned out that when Charles was a child, his father was arrested for embezzlement, leading to the family's collapse. Unwilling to accept the sudden loss of his wealth, Charles took a dark path and made a deal with the demon, who controlled money. The price was his life. But the cowardly Charles, fearing death, sacrificed his own soul and struck another deal with the demon, offering the lives of the remaining members of his family, leaving only one member of the Abernathy family to live forever. As Charles spoke, he took out a box from the safe. He pulled out a handgun and without hesitation pulled the trigger against his son's forehead. Drew fell to the ground. Only Charles remained of the Abernathy family. Hannah looked at her husband, shot and in pain, heartbroken. She never imagined that the old man before her could be cruel enough to kill his own son. She realized her situation was extremely perilous. Charles twistedly screamed Hannah's name, wandering from room to room with the gun in hand. Suddenly, he saw the blood on the floor and smiled wickedly, following the trail, but found no sign of his prey. At that moment, Hannah had run to the first floor, picking up the fallen shotgun and loading the last bullet. She decided to go all in, lying under the sofa, waiting for Charles to let his guard down. She shot him in the chest, the force of the impact knocking him back, causing him to collide with a stone bell, which then fell on him. Hannah slowly took out a gift she had prepared for Charles's birthday. She opened the box and revealed a photograph, a baby image symbolizing the love between Hannah and Drew. It's then revealed that besides Charles, there was another member of the Abernathy family. Hearing this, Charles's eyes widened in shock. He never expected this seemingly insignificant outsider would play him. Charles struggled in frustration as four figures quietly stood not far away. Those were the fruits of his own deeds, his own kin he had harmed. In an instant, a pitch-black demon appeared before him, its head splitting open to reveal a massive maw filled with fangs. A scream echoed as the last member of the family fell. In the morning, the butler opened the grand door of the mansion, and Hannah quickly walked out. This sudden scene shocked the butler. Hannah strolled towards the car, stroking her belly, tears tracing down her cheeks as the mansion disappeared into the forest behind her. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.